Geneva, could you tell us how the two of y'all got together?
Well, it started when we were very young. We went to the same church, the same school all our life. He was my first date. I was 14 years old and came by in a Model A Ford and took me rabbit hunting. And I'd never done anything wild and crazy like that. I was an only child at that time and lived with adults and didn't know there were fun things like that, and he was fun.
Well, I guess they started in grade school and we were together in high school and dated and always had a relationship and being involved in sports activities and all. And I recall one situation at a basketball game whenever the girls always sat on one side of the bus and the boys always sat on the other. Well, it was the last game of the season and the coach got on the bus and said, "Guy, you can ride over there with her this time." I thought that was pretty significant because that was a major move for a coach from Cranford Camp to let you ride by your girlfriend. When we moved to the ranch, Edwards dorm was being completed. The sidewalks weren't poured or nothing, and we moved our old junky furniture into Edwards dorm on Friday afternoon, and on Saturday, this guy comes walking up to the apartment there, and Geneva looked out the window and says, "Who is this?" And I said, "I don't know, but it looks like Farley. I've seen some pictures of him." And he come and he's talking at the door a little bit. And he said, "You mind if I come in?" And I said, "No, it'd be all right." And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm watching a football game back here." And he said, "Well, you mind if I watch with you?" And I said, "Yeah. We don't have nothing but a little portable TV, and I'm sitting on the bed, if you don't mind that. Well, come on back." He sat there the rest of the afternoon, and every time there was a commercial or something on, he's telling me about Boys Ranch and how to manage boys and how to do things at the ranch. And he was a real educator, and it was a shock to me that he took an interest in me, and I realized as time went on, his interest was the agriculture aspect of it because he felt like that we could do a lot of improvement and do a lot of things in the ag program, and he was totally behind that. He was a great supporter of the youth program in FFA and also in agricultural development there we had at the ranch. And we were killing 10 hogs a week. We were killing 5 beavers a week. We were running 100 gallons of milk a day. And that really fit the program real good at that time, even though this day and time, that's different. And things change, and what you needed then and what you need now is two different things. But it was really a thriving program that was producing all the beef and all the milk and all the pork and a whole lot of the vegetables that we consumed in the dining hall. We had a 30-acre garden that was active and growing. And we also, because of Farley's involvement, developed an irrigation program, and we wound up being able to irrigate water 1,000 acres of farmland there. And so we raised all of the hay. We had 60 head of sows, and we were milking about 30 cows, and of course we got to using automatic milkers, but we milked by hand up until 73, I guess, when we built that dairy barn up there. First thing you know, we were baling 8,000 bales of alfalfa hay a year and raising grain and doing all kinds of things. And of course, we had wranglers taking care of the horses, and the ag program, the production aspect of the ag program just boomed. Mm-hmm. But it just took a lot of work and a lot of kids' involvement. You know, there was about 140 teenage kids involved in morning and afternoon working chores. The success of the ag program was the students' involvement, and they felt like they were a part of it, and they had a lot of ownership into it. Our chapter rating was right there at the top 5 most of the time in terms of state competition. And of course, that was a development of character and leadership that I think it was important. And that carried on throughout the working part of the ag program too, with the way the working crews was organized and everything. So the leadership and character was important. We had a number of state officers, which was quite an accomplishment. Johnny Wells was a state vice president, and he did a lot of things around the state, traveled a whole lot whenever he was state vice president. So David Ratton was a state vice president, and David Ratton ran a real strong campaign to be the president, and I thought that he was going to make it. And Kip Burnett was a major leader, and he ran a strong campaign in the FFA convention, but he came up, as I say, second. He was. And Tom Maynard was a part of that. He was a state FFA vice president. Aaron Alejandro he wound up winning the race, and he won the race for a number of reasons. One of them, major one, is because he had the ability and the talent to do it and the training. But Tom Maynard was his campaign manager, and that effort helped put him into the position of winning as state president. I mentioned the state officers, and one that I need to talk about in detail is Bill Sarpolis. That way, and he traveled all over the state, and he tried to make 5 schools a day. No other president has ever done that before, nor have they since. But he was really diligent. You know, he snacked in his car, ate crackers and peanut
butter and potato chips.
And he traveled and did a good job. Did a great job, not just a good job, all over the state. And of course, this was real good for Boys Ranch, and it was good for the FFA, and it was good for Bill Sarpolis too, because it put him in the limelight, and it catapulted his political career too all the way to Congress. The Lieutenant Governor appointed him as committee chair on the Natural Resource Committee for a subcommittee on agriculture. Well, that was a pretty major responsibility. Essentially, it was the Senate side of all ag policies and all ag legislation and everything. And so he came and talked to me about the possibilities of moving to Austin and doing it. I first told him, I said, I'll try to get somebody for you that job. Nothing turned out to his satisfaction. And so we decided to go, when what we did was a whole new world. And the first thing I learned, I always wore a hat, and I go to the Capitol the first morning to work, and I'm kind of an oddball wearing a hat coming into the Capitol and no place to hang it.
What did you accomplish there in, what were you in, the Senate for 8 years with Bill, and then you went to Washington for a couple of years?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you feel good about as far as accomplishments there?
Well, I think the grain checkoff and developed the marketing of wheat and corn and grain sorghum. I think that was a pretty major accomplishment, and it was done with a considerable amount of opposition, but those leaders, see, it was a constitutional amendment. You had to have 100 votes in the House to get it done, and the wisdom of the chairman of the Ag Committee in the House was Leroy Whitty, and he decided that he wanted that bill posted on Saturday when most of the members were absent. So he did the voting for him. He went around all those desks punching that green button. But that's the way politics work. But that was a major accomplishment. And of course, we were really involved with the ag workers situation. Actually, what it was a farm workers issue. Sarpolis was assigned as chairman of that committee to have hearings all through the interim. And the Speaker of the House was a member of that committee. He put himself on that committee, and we had hearings in the Rio Grande Valley and the Panhandle and all over the state. And when we went to Amarillo, the Sarpolis, his office out there, he was hanging in effigy.
Oh my goodness.
So it was not a friendly atmosphere. And of course, in the place where we had the hearing, there was a lot of placards carried around, a lot of opposition, but we spent a lot of time on water issues, grain explosion in the elevators, and
that's one of the things that stands out about both of you is you go to Boys Ranch, and that's a totally different world, and it's totally changed after you left it because of you dive into things. And when you talk about going into the political world at the Senate in Washington, it's not like you went along to help out. You dive into things and you make a difference and
yeah, that's right.
get actively involved.
Yeah.
When you left Congress, what was the next thing that you did?
He promised me that we wouldn't stay very long in Washington, D.C. because I did not want to go and leave family in Texas. But he said, we need to go help Bill.
How long were you there?
2 years.
Okay, okay.
2 years. And the opportunity to apply for the executive director of the Ag Teachers Association came available to him. So we flew to Corpus.
Okay.
Oh, but in the area of the Ag Teachers Association, there was a lot of political involvement because of lobbying and taking care of educational issues and that type of thing. And also having a staff of people like we did that could put on the conferences and all. We had some excellent people that were communication and financial people, and so we really worked to establish a stable financial situation for the association.
Since you've been put out to pasture, what have you been doing?
Well,
What do y'all
I have, you know, what it is, when you retire, the only difference in retirement and work is you don't get paid for your work. The work is still the same, and we've been involved with church activities, and there was an old church out here in the country that needed a lot of repair, and so we took it on ourselves to raise the money and totally bring that church back to everything that the architect had said it looked like in 1890. The color.
Where do you live now?
Where I live, we live in Bosque County, Cranford's Gap, the same place we went to school and church.
On property that his grandfather purchased in 1886.
Yeah.
Your kids live around?
Gary lives across the road, Terry lives around the corner, and Barry lives about 20 miles away, and Sherry is about the furthest, which is in Waxahachie, 100 miles. It's such a thrill to be able to see your children, the lights on their house at night. I know they're home, I know they're safe. I always wanted my chickens under my wing, and I'm so thankful that I have them close by.
Well, I tell you another thing about our boys. They realized the opportunities that they had at Boys Ranch were far superior to what they would have had at other school districts because of the facilities and opportunities to be involved in activities and everything. They had a great place to get an education.
What are you looking forward to?
More of the same.
More of the same of what?
More of the same. We've had a very blessed life.
Tell me what you feel about the Alumni Association. What do you see for us?
Well, I tell you, I see from, I'm going to go back to Farley because Farley didn't finish a lot of sentences without saying something about the alumni, and he was disappointed it wasn't doing what he had hoped it could do, but he couldn't do it for it. They had to be leadership picked up on the ex-ranchers part and go on. And I'm really interested in the progress of it, and I think it's making major progress. It's alive and well, and it's improving, and it takes a lot of financial support to do that. You have to talk about the money aspect if you're going to do anything. You got to have money to do these things and to provide certain assistance to those ex-ranchers. And I think what they're doing is just phenomenal.
I thank both of y'all a whole lot for sharing with us, and not just sharing with us here, but for touching lives. For 40, 50 years, you've touched so many lives, and not just Boys Ranchers. I mean, the state, the country, the world.